The first thing you learn on a frontier survey mission is that space is mostly empty, and the second thing you learn is that the universe saves its best jokes for when you're alone. My pod punched through the upper atmosphere like a rock with a death wish, screamed across a violet sky, and finally skidded into a plain of dark glassy sand that looked like someone had melted a desert and forgotten to unmelt it. The landing thrusters tried their best. My spine filed a complaint anyway. I lay there for a moment, listening to my suit's diagnostic voice list everything that was wrong in the calm tone of someone reading a grocery receipt. Impact damage, moderate. External temperature, unstable. Radiation levels, rising. Recommend immediate shelter. Recommend you stop narrating my suffering. I muttered, and pushed myself upright. I was supposed to be on a low-risk survey run. Low risk, in corporate terms, meant nobody expected me to die in a way that required paperwork. I'd been dropped on the edge of a map system to confirm mineral readings and wave at the local rocks. A job so boring my coffee back on the ship probably missed me. The horizon shimmered with heat and something else, static, like the air itself was grinding its teeth. My visor tagged it with a warning icon. Radiation front, moving. Great. Not only had I crashed, I'd crashed on a planet with weather that tried to cook you from the inside. I checked my supplies. 2 ration packs. 1 emergency water pouch. A coil of line. A flare beacon that might or might not work after my pod's dramatic tantrum. And a med kit. Humanity had crossed light years, built jump gates, and yet still packed survival kits like we were going camping with angry physics. I started walking, because standing around was how you became a cautionary tale. The sand crunched under my boots with that brittle, burned sound. My suit kept trying to route me toward optimal shelter, which was a polite way of saying anywhere else. The radiation front crawled closer, visible now as a faint greenish haze pushing across the plain. My visor tinted automatically, as if that would make it less offensive. The air smelled like hot metal and the kind of ozone you only get when nature is throwing a fit. Then I heard it. A sharp, panicked yip, thin as a wire and twice as urgent. I froze. In the middle of nowhere, on a planet that wanted to microwave me, something was making a noise that hit my brain like a hook. Not a roar. Not a threat. A cry, high, young, and very much alive. I followed it without thinking, because humans are excellent at 2 things: curiosity and poor decisions made in the name of compassion. The sound led me to a shallow depression where broken stone formed a jagged bowl. Half a slab of rock had collapsed into it, pinning a small figure beneath. A vulpine cub, fox-like, but not earth fox. Too long in the legs, too clever in the eyes, coat a smoky silver with pale markings that looked almost painted on. Its tail, yes, tail, flicked weakly, trapped under the slab's edge. The cub's eyes locked onto mine. They were golden and wide and absolutely certain I was either salvation or the last thing it would ever see. "Hey," I said like an idiot, as if "hey" was a universal fix. "Okay. Okay, I've got you." My suit screamed a warning about radiation exposure. I ignored it. The slab was heavy but not impossible. I wedged my hands underneath, braced my feet, and lifted. Every muscle in my arms lit up. My shoulder popped. I hissed through clenched teeth. The cub yelped, and I shifted my grip, careful not to crush it. There's a thing humans do under pressure: we bargain with our own bodies like they're separate employees. "Just 1 more second," I told my arms. "You can file the complaint later." The rock rose. Not much, just enough. I shoved my coil of line under the edge, looped it, and pulled like I was trying to drag my bad luck off the planet. The slab tilted, slid, and settled against another rock with a grinding crunch. The cub wriggled free, stumbling on 3 legs and 1 numb paw. It limped toward me and, of all things, pressed its head against my shin. A bonding gesture. Immediate. Terrifyingly adorable. "Don't do that," I whispered, because my heart didn't need additional responsibilities. The radiation haze thickened. My suit beeped like a nervous bird. I scooped the cub up without asking permission, tucked it against my chest plate, and started moving. It was warm through my suit. Too warm. Living warm. It shivered, then settled, breathing fast. My visor threw up new warnings. Foreign biosignature, unregistered. I know, I muttered. I'm also unregistered in several emotional categories right now. We didn't make it far before the ground changed. A line of low, wind-carved ridges rose ahead, and beyond them the haze swirled, catching light and sickly green waves. And then something else moved, fast and silent. A figure crested the ridge like smoke-given muscles. Tall, digitigrade legs. For the color of midnight ash. Multiple tails fanning behind her like a banner. Her eyes were a brighter gold than the cub's, older, sharper, furious enough to bend the air. She saw the cub in my arms and stopped so abruptly the sand sprayed. For a heartbeat, everything held still, the storm, my lungs, the cub's trembling. Then she spoke in a language my translator struggled to swallow. It spat out meaning anyway, clipped and heavy. Release. I didn't. Because I have a remarkable talent for making tense situations worse by adding sincerity. It was trapped, I said. I got it out. It's hurt. I almost said. A friend. Which would have been hilarious if it weren't true. I'm not here to harm it. Her nostrils flared. She took one step closer. The air around her felt charged, like static right before lightning. Her gaze flicked to my suit, my pod smoke smell, my human shape. Then back to the cub, which, traitor, nuzzled closer into my chest. The mother's ears angled back. Her voice dropped, and the translator finally caught the weight behind the words. You carried my cub. I mean, yeah, I said, because the obvious was all I had. I'm carrying. She raised one clawed hand, and I shut up. Not because I'm wise, but because I'm still capable of recognizing the body language of someone about to make my day worse. You carried my cub, she repeated slower, as if speaking into a law carved into bone. Now you carry our pack. My brain did a quick inventory of definitions. Pack, group of travelers. Pack, supplies. Pack, social unit. Pack, military unit. Pack, legal entity? My mouth chose the wrong one. Sure, I said. I can carry supplies. Behind her, more shapes appeared on the ridge, other Vulpines, watching, silent. Their eyes reflected the sickly storm light. One of them clicked their tongue, a sound that felt like judgment. The mother's expression didn't change, but something in the air did, like a decision had snapped into place. You accept, she said. I accept, helping, I clarified, because I could feel my future trying to run away. I'm just passing through. Temporary. You know. Short term. Like a travel pack. A low ripple went through the watchers. Not laughter. Not exactly. More like the amused exhale of people who'd just seen someone step onto a trap and call it interesting terrain. The mother moved closer until her shadow fell over me. She reached out, and for one alarming second I thought she was going to take the cub by force. Instead, she pressed her forehead to my helmet, one firm tap, and the translator spat out a word that landed like a stamp. Packbound. My suit beeped. My heart did something similar. Wait, I said. That sounds official. It is law, she said, and her eyes finally softened, just a fraction, toward the cub. You saved what is ours. You are ours now. The cub yawned against my chest plate, as if to confirm the paperwork. In the distance, the radiation front rolled closer, a glowing wave with no patience for legal ceremonies. The mother turned, tails lifting like a signal. Come, she ordered. Pack moves. I should have argued. I should have demanded terms, asked for translations, called Earth Command, or at least pretended I had a plan. Instead, I followed, because I was a human with 2 ration packs, a busted shoulder, and a warm little life pressed against my ribs. And because, somewhere between the cub's trust and the mother's unblinking certainty, I realized I'd just been adopted by an alien survival clan during a storm. Just to be clear, I said, hurrying after them. When you say join the pack, you mean, like, metaphorically? The mother glanced back, and for the first time her mouth curled, not into a smile, but into something dangerously close to satisfaction. Carry, she said simply. And keep up. And that's how my low-risk mission became a sprint into the unknown, carrying a cub, carrying my own bad choices, and apparently carrying an entire pack I hadn't agreed to in any language that mattered. By the time the storm finally peeled away from our heels, I'd learned 3 things about Vulpine packs. They moved like a thought, they traveled light in ways that made my survival kit look like a garage sale, and they had absolutely no concept of personal space. We dropped into a narrow ravine cut with natural overhangs that bled off most of the radiation haze. The pack flowed into it, settling with quiet efficiency. I arrived last, wheezing through my suit filter like a malfunctioning kettle, the cub still tucked against my chest. The mother took the cub gently this time, her movements careful in a way that made my throat tighten. She pressed her nose to the cub's forehead, then looked at me. You carried, she said. You remain. Right, I said. Remain. As in nearby. She made a sound that translated roughly to amused tolerance. As in bound. That word again. Bound. My translator was working overtime, and none of the options it offered were comforting. Tied. Joined. Claimed. I set my pack down and flexed my aching shoulder. The rest of the pack began their routines. Some checked the ravine's perimeter. Others unfolded compact shelters grown from some kind of living fiber. The cub was placed near the center, immediately surrounded by tails and low murmurs that sounded like a group chat conducted entirely in purrs. A smaller Vulpine with a scar across one eye approached me and stared at my gear. Your pack is heavy, the translator offered. That's just my stuff, I said. Humans like options. They tilted their head. Options slow the hunt. Yeah, well, options also keep you alive when the weather tries to sterilize your bones. They considered that, then reached out and poked my ration pack like it might bite them. Food? Technically, I said. Emotionally? Debatable. Word spread fast that the human had portable misery compressed into foil. A few of them circled closer, eyes bright with curiosity. I tore open a ration bar and broke off a corner. The nearest Vulpine sniffed it, recoiled, then tried it anyway. Their ears flicked back. This is punishment. Only if you expect joy from it. The mother watched from across the ravine, her posture relaxed but her attention sharp. When she spoke, the pack quieted. The pack shelters. The pack eats. The pack bonds. The pack prepares to move. I caught on that bonds was not optional. 2 Vulpines moved in on either side of me, their warm fur pressing against my suit. Another settled behind me. I froze, brains spinning through human boundaries and alien interpretations. Personal bubble, I said weakly. It's a human thing. The one with the scar tilted their head. You carry our cub. You carry our warmth. I carried your cub out of a death storm, I said. This feels like a different clause in the contract. There was that almost laughter sound again. They leaned closer anyway. The heat was, actually, nice. My suit's heater had been fighting a losing battle against the cold sink of the ravine walls. The pack's collective warmth bled through the armor like a shared secret. Pack warmth, the scarred one said. Keeps fear small. I swallowed. Humans usually use blankets. Or denial. As the pack settled, I realized they'd arranged themselves with intent. The cub lay near the center. The mother positioned herself between the cub and the ravine opening. And me? I was placed just off-center, close enough to matter, far enough to be watched. Not a prisoner. Not a guest. Something in between. My suit pinged with a connection request. I accepted it, hoping for a faint signal to my ship's relay. Instead, the display filled with biometric readouts I didn't recognize. I said. Is someone reading my vitals? Yes, the mother said without looking at me. Your pack bond is incomplete. We learn your strength. That's intimate for a first night, I said. I usually at least know someone's name before we exchange heart rates. The scarred one made a noise my translator interpreted as confusion. Why would names be needed for heartbeats? Long story. Short, species. The pack ate. Their food smelled like smoke and iron and something green. They offered me a strip. I bit into it cautiously. It was chewy, sharp, and weirdly energizing. My suit flagged a stimulant compound and asked if I wanted to filter it. Don't you dare, I whispered. I've had worse. The cub woke and wobbled over to me, tail swishing like it owned the place. It climbed into my lap with the confidence of something that had already decided my existence was furniture. The mother watched, ears angled forward. You bond fast, she said. Occupational hazard, I replied. Humans imprint on anything that looks at them like they matter. The scarred one snorted. That is weakness. Sure, I said. It's also why we survive long enough to become inconvenient. Later, time was slippery in the ravine. The pack shifted from resting to readiness. Scouts slipped out, tails low, eyes bright. The mother stood and addressed me directly. You will stand with the pack. Define stand, I said. Because I'm more of a strategic croucher. You will guard, she clarified. Your senses are strange. Your tools are loud. Both are useful. I bristled at loud, then remembered the flare beacon, the motion sensors, the fact that my suit's stealth mode was about as subtle as a drunk meteor. Useful is a generous word, I said. But I can make noise in the right direction. They showed me the perimeter. I placed sensors along the ravine's mouth, tuned to mass movement and heat differentials. The pack watched with interest as I rigged a crude early warning system out of parts I'd intended for repairing my pod. You break your pack to protect our pack, the mother observed. I repurpose, I said. It's a human tradition. We take something meant for one job and force it into another until it works or explodes. Which is more likely? Asked the scarred one. Depends on the day. A flicker of movement on the far ridge caught my eye. Shapes. Too still to be rocks. My sensors chirped in agreement. Visitors, I murmured. The pack tensed, tails lifting. The mother's voice dropped. Rivals. I felt the weight of the word settle into my bones. Rivals meant teeth. Rivals meant history I didn't have. Rivals meant that whatever I'd agreed to by carrying a cub out of a storm was about to get expensive. I swallowed and checked my gear. 2 ration packs. 1 med kit. A flare beacon. A human's favorite strategy, making do. Just so we're clear, I said quietly. When you said join the pack, you meant all of this, didn't you? The mother's gaze stayed on the ridge. The pack does not borrow members, she said. The pack keeps them. The cub pressed closer to my leg, small and warm and terrifyingly trusting. The sensors pinged again, more insistent. I exhaled, slow and steady, because panic wastes oxygen and oxygen was suddenly a group resource. Okay, I said. Then let's do what packs do best. Run? The scarred one offered. Plan, I corrected. The first shot of trouble wasn't a shot at all. It was a shadow slipping where shadows didn't belong, a ripple of movement that made my sensors chirp like anxious birds. The pack didn't need electronics to feel it. Their tails lifted in unison, ears pivoting toward the ridge. Rivals crested the far rocks in a loose line, same vulpine build, different markings. Darker coats. Sharper eyes. Their posture said ownership the way a flag says it, all angles and confidence. The mother stepped forward, shoulders squared, and the space between the 2 packs filled with the kind of quiet that exists right before something breaks. You trespass, she called, her voice carrying across the ravine. The rival leaders' tails flicked in lazy arcs. Your territory thins. Your pack weakens. We test the edge. Testing edges gets you cut. I muttered, then realized my mic was live. Several heads turned my way. Great. First contact with rival aliens, and I provided the commentary track. The rival leader's gaze snagged on me like a hook. You wear strange skin, they said. You smell of metal and fear. That's just Tuesday, I said. And the metal's not a fashion choice. The mother didn't look back. The human stands with us. The word stands landed heavier than it had earlier. The rival's eyes sharpened. A murmur rippled through them, the sound of calculations being updated. Pack bonded? The rival leader asked. Yes, the mother said. There it was. The fine print of my good deed. I took a slow breath. For the record, I thought pack meant hiking group. The scarred one beside me bared their teeth in what I was starting to recognize as a grin. Your confusion is now a resource. The rivals fanned out, not rushing, just drifting closer, testing lines of sight. Their movements were efficient, practiced. They were better hunters than us. Faster. Stronger. If this went to claws, I was decorative at best. So I did the only thing humans do when outmatched physically. I got creative. Okay, I said quietly to the mother. They're probing. They want you to blink first. We don't blink. We make blinking inconvenient. She didn't look at me. Speak plainly. Traps, I said. Noise. Light. Make the ground argue with them. Her ears twitched. We do not hide. Neither do we, I said. We improvise. I keyed my sensors to active mode and tossed the flare beacon down the ravine's mouth. It burst into white light and screaming static, a sudden artificial dawn that made every shadow confess its secrets. The rivals hissed, eyes narrowing against the glare. Too loud, the scarred one said approvingly. I triggered the motion sensors I'd planted. They pulsed in a staggered pattern, throwing false positives across the ravine walls. To a predator's eye, it looked like movement where there was none, a crowd of ghosts jittering in and out of existence. The rivals hesitated. That half-second was everything. No, I said. Shift left. The pack flowed with the suggestion, not because they trusted me completely, but because predators respect momentum. They repositioned, using the glare and noise as cover. The rivals adjusted, then adjusted again, frustration tightening their movements. The rival leader clicked their tongue. Human tricks, they said. Noise and light. Works on us too, I said. We invented fireworks for a reason. A rival lunged toward the ravine's mouth, fast as a thought. I yanked the line I'd rigged between two rocks. The ground there wasn't soft enough to trap them, but the sudden tension snapped loose a cascade of pebbles and dust. The rivals skidded, lost footing, and tumbled into a shallow slide. They recovered quickly. These weren't amateurs, but the stumble broke their rhythm. The pack surged forward in a controlled wave, not to strike, but to claim ground. The mother's voice cut through the chaos. Hold! The pack held. The rivals stopped. Both sides stared at the space between them, the invisible line where first blood would rewrite the day. The cub whimpered behind me. I felt the sound in my chest like a small hand closing around my lungs. Listen, I said, pitching my voice to Carrie without challenging. You're here because you think they're weak. Because you think a human makes them softer. The rival leader's eyes flicked to me. You are soft, they said. You break before we do. Absolutely, I agreed. We break all the time. Then we glue ourselves back together with stubbornness and bad ideas. The point isn't whether I'm soft. The point is whether this fight gets you anything you can't get another way. Their tails stilled. That was interest, not agreement. You test the edge, I continued. You test it and someone gets hurt. Maybe you win a patch of ground. Maybe you lose a hunter. Either way, the storm's not done with this place. The radiation front is cycling back in less than a day. You want to fight over dirt that'll cook you tomorrow? Silence stretched. The mother glanced at me, eyes bright with something like surprise. The rival leader considered the ravine, the overhangs, the sensors still chirping like nervous insects. You speak as if you know this land. I crashed into it, I said. That counts as intimacy. A ripple of that almost laughter moved through both packs. The tension didn't vanish, but it bent. "What do you offer?" the rival leader asked. "Information," I said. "Shelter patterns. Where the radiation pools. Where the wind carves the worst channels. We can map safer paths if you stop trying to take this one by force." The scarred one leaned toward me. "You offer our knowledge to rivals." "I offer survival," I said. "It's a human reflex. We trade to avoid bleeding." The mother studied me. For a moment, I thought she might call me out, remind me of pack loyalty in terms that involved claws. Instead, she dipped her head once. "We trade," she said. "For now." The rival leader's ears angled forward. "For now," they echoed. The rivals withdrew in measured steps, not turning their backs until the distance was wide enough to be polite. The flare beacon guttered and died. The ravine dimmed back to its uneasy twilight. My legs started shaking the moment the immediate threat receded. Adrenaline is a generous liar. It promises you strength and collects payment later. The mother turned to me. "You change the hunt without striking. Humans are good at that," I said. "We call it negotiation when it works and panic when it doesn't." She regarded me for a long beat. "You stand with the pack," she said again, but this time the words were different. "Not law. Acknowledgement." The scarred one bumped their shoulder against mine, a brief, solid touch. "You are loud," they said. "And strange. The pack keeps useful noise." "Happy to be your noise generator," I said. "Low warranty. High enthusiasm." The cub padded out and pressed its head against my knee, as if checking whether I'd survived the politics. I crouched and let it nuzzle my glove. My suit chimed. A tight beam signal flickered to life across the display. "Earth Command, late to the party as usual." "Scout Unit Cade." The channel crackled. "We've detected anomalous transmissions in your sector. Report status." I stared at the pack, the mother standing tall, the scarred one watching the horizon, the cub breathing warm and steady at my side. I thought about the word pack, and how easily it had slipped past my defenses and rearranged my priorities. "Status," I said slowly. "Alive. Not alone. And possibly in violation of several interstellar etiquette guidelines." The channel crackled again, sharp with sudden interest. "Clarify." I looked up at the ravine's mouth, where shadows still remembered being trouble. "I think," I said, "I accidentally joined an alien family with political consequences." Silence. Then, "That's not a standard report, Cade." "Yeah," I said. "Welcome to human problem solving." Earth Command did not take the news well. The channel filled with overlapping voices, all trying to sound calm and failing in different ways. Protocol officers asked for clarification in tones that implied they already regretted asking. Legal asked what "pack bonded" meant in binding terms. Diplomacy asked if I was under duress. Someone from logistics asked if the pack had docking permissions, which felt premature given that we were in a ravine on a planet that hated visitors. "I'm not under duress," I said. "I'm under expectations." The mother listened without interrupting, her gaze steady. When I relayed the translation of their questions, she considered it with the gravity of someone weighing a hunt. "The pack does not cage," she said. "The pack chooses. You chose." "I chose to help a kid out of a storm," I said. "The rest of this was bundled." The scarred one flicked their tails. "Bundles are efficient." Earth Command asked for visual confirmation. I toggled my feed. The pack shifted, curious about the floating human eye hovering above my wrist. The cub tried to paw at the projection, missing by centimeters and then glaring at the betrayal of physics. "Scout Cade," Diplomacy said carefully, "are you able to disengage from this affiliation?" The mother's ears angled forward. The pack stilled. The word, disengage, carried weight across cultures. Even my translator seemed to hesitate. "I can leave," I said, because I believed in honesty even when it complicated things. "But I won't pretend it wouldn't change things here." The mother stepped closer, close enough that the feed caught the texture of her fur, the old scars mapping stories I didn't have. You carry our cub, she said to the hovering human eye. You change the hunt without blood. You are pack. The pack does not discard. Earth Command went quiet in that way that meant someone was rapidly rewriting policy on the fly. Understood, Legal finally said. We will acknowledge a provisional cross-species kinship status pending review. That's a sentence no one thought they'd say today, I muttered. Diplomacy cleared their throat. Scout Cade, we're dispatching an envoy. We request you maintain your current status and avoid further entanglements. I glanced at the pack, at the cub nestled against the mother's leg, at the scarred one scanning the horizon with casual competence. Avoiding entanglements is not our strong suit, I said. But I'll keep the chaos tasteful. The channel signed off with a flurry of muted panic. The ravine felt quieter without the human chorus in my ear. The pack resumed its rhythm. Someone passed me a strip of their iron smoke food. I accepted it without comment this time. Growth is subtle like that. Later, when the light slanted low and the air stopped trying to kill us for a minute, the mother sat across from me. Her posture was less formal now, more domestic, if you could apply that word to a predator who could outpace a hoverbike. You fear what follows, she said. I fear paperwork, I replied. And that the next storm won't care about treaties. She studied me, then nodded. The storms do not care. Packs do. We planned routes. Not in the neat lines Earth Command would have preferred, but in layered possibilities, where the radiation pulled after dusk, where the wind scoured paths clean, where rivals tended to test borders and where they didn't. I shared what my sensors could read. The packs shared what their bones remembered. The map that emerged wasn't clean, but it was honest. When the envoy's signal ghosted into range, the pack gathered at the ravine's mouth. The mother lifted her chin, the scarred one bristled with curiosity, and I tried to stand in a way that suggested competence rather than recently adopted disaster. The envoy's craft descended like a polite intruder, humming with restraint. A human stepped out, visor reflecting the pack in a dozen distorted versions. They paused, recalibrated their expectations in real time, and then bowed, an awkward human approximation of respect that somehow landed. I'm here to speak with Scout Cade, they said. And the pack. The mother inclined her head. Speak. The envoy kept their voice even. Earth acknowledges your law. We seek terms that keep everyone alive. Alive is the first term, the mother said. Respected is the second. Fair, the envoy said. We're good at learning fast when the alternative is regret. The negotiation wasn't elegant. It was practical. Path sharing. Warning signals for storms. No territorial pushes during radiation cycles. Recognition that pack bonded. Humans weren't hostages or assets, but bridges. At one point, the envoy glanced at me. You're very calm for someone who started a diplomatic incident by being helpful. I've had practice, I said. Humans weaponize good intentions. The cub wandered over and sat on my boot, claiming it with the casual authority of youth. The envoy blinked, then smiled despite themselves. Is it safe to assume you're staying a while? I looked at the pack. The mother met my eyes, no pressure in her gaze now, only space for choice. The scarred one tilted their head, waiting. The cub's tail flicked against my shin, warm and insistent. I'll stay long enough to make the next storm less ugly, I said. After that, we'll see. The envoy nodded. Earth will adjust. When the craft lifted away, the ravine filled with the old sounds again, wind over stone, the soft murmur of pack communication, the quiet, shared work of existing somewhere dangerous together. I checked my supplies. Still low. Still human. Still improvising. The mother stood beside me. You carry our cub, she said softly. You carry our pack. This time, the words didn't feel like a trap. Yeah, I said. And you carry me when I get stupid. The scarred one snorted. We will carry you often. Figures, I said, and let myself sit with the pack as the light faded, grounded in the simplest HFY truth I knew. humans survive by making families out of strangers, and sometimes the universe lets us keep them.